In a world where laws are meant to protect, Officer Ramsey twists them to fuel his own biased ego. When he confronts a pregnant woman waiting for a bus, accusing her of loitering, the encounter takes a shocking turn that triggers her early labor. Join us as we unravel the gripping story behind this harrowing moment. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. The streets of the city were cloaked in an unsettling silence, a dark cloud of unease hanging over the bustling sidewalks. The air was thick with tension, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. Officer Ramsey, a veteran on the police force, prowled the alleyways like a predator stalking its prey. His eyes, sharp and narrowed, scanned the surroundings with a menacing intensity. Known for his aggressive tactics and blatant disregard for the law, he had become a menace to the very community he was sworn to protect. As Ramsey continued his patrol, he caught sight of a young woman standing at a bus stop. Eliza, her belly swollen with the promise of new life, radiated a gentle warmth that contrasted sharply with the coldness of the officer approaching her. Her dark hair framed her face, and her eyes, filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety, searched the horizon for the bus that would take her home. In the bustling heart of the city, a tense encounter unfolded in a public space. Officer Ramsey stood with a stern expression, his gaze fixed on a young woman who appeared to be waiting for the bus. You're loitering," he declared, his voice firm and authoritative. "This is a public space, and I can't have you causing a disturbance here." Eliza, her hands trembling slightly, looked up at him with wide, nervous eyes. I am just waiting for the bus, officer," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble." Ramsey's disdain was palpable as he replied, "That's what they all say. You people think you can just hang around and do whatever you want, don't you?" His words dripped with contempt, painting her as a nuisance rather than a mere commuter. Eliza took a deep breath, trying to remain calm despite the rising tension. "I'm not doing anything wrong, sir. I'm just trying to get home. Please, I don't want any trouble," she pleaded, hoping to defuse the situation. But Ramsey was unyielding, his voice rising in volume. "That's where you're wrong. You're causing a disturbance, and I won't have it. Now, I suggest you move along before I have to take you in." Feeling a protective instinct surge within her, Eliza placed a hand on her belly, a gesture of vulnerability. "Officer, please, I'm pregnant. I just need to wait for the bus. I'm not causing any trouble, I promise," she implored, desperation creeping into her tone. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Ramsey sneered, his expression hardening. "Pregnant, huh? Well, that's just great. You people breed like rabbits, don't you? Now, I'm going to give you one more chance to get out of here before I haul your sorry ass in for loitering." Eliza's heart raced as she felt the weight of his words. "Please, sir, I'm begging you. I'll leave as soon as the bus comes. I don't want any trouble. I just want to get home safely," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But Ramsey's anger was rising, his patience wearing thin. "That's it, you're coming with me. I've had enough of your excuses and your attitude," he declared, stepping closer, ready to enforce his authority without a second thought. The air was thick with tension, and Eliza's pleas hung in the air, desperate and unanswered. Without warning, Ramsey lunged forward, grabbing Eliza by the arm with a grip that felt like iron. He yanked her toward him, his face twisted in a sneer. "That's not good enough," he snarled, his voice low and threatening. Eliza cried out in pain, her heart racing as she felt the baby inside her shift uncomfortably in response to the sudden violence. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere suffocating as Ramsey unleashed his wrath upon Eliza. In a horrifying display of brutality, he raised his leg, his knee hitting her abdomen with such force that her water broke, and she writhed in agony, a mixture of shock and pain flooding her senses. "Help!" she screamed, her voice trembling with terror. "My baby. Please don't hurt my baby." But Ramsey stood over her, his face a mask of indifference. "Shut up, you bitch," he spat, kicking her again, this time in the ribs so hard that she fell down, her body broken, her heart shattered. How could this be happening? A bystander, horrified by the scene unfolding before her, quickly dialed 911, her hands shaking with urgency. "There's a pregnant woman being assaulted by a police officer," she cried, her voice quaking with fear and disbelief. "She's in labor, please send help." Moments later, the wail of sirens pierced the air, a sound that should have brought relief, but instead filled the atmosphere with a sense of impending confrontation. Ramsey finally turned his attention away from Eliza, his scowl deepening as he realized that his actions had been witnessed. The realization that his brutality was about to be exposed sent a chill down his spine. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. "Keep your nose out of my business, or you'll come to regret it," he growled, glaring at the bystander, who had dared to intervene. As the ambulance arrived, its lights flashing like a beacon of hope, Ramsey made a hasty retreat, disappearing into the shadows, his tainted badge a symbol of the corruption that had consumed him. Eliza, her body battered and bruised, was rushed to the hospital, where the medical staff worked tirelessly to save her and her baby. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, mingling with the frantic energy of the hospital. Doctors and nurses moved with purpose, their faces etched with determination as they fought to keep both mother and child alive. Eliza lay on the gurney, her heart pounding in her chest, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. The trauma she had endured threatened the life of her unborn child, and the doctors fought a desperate battle against time. As the bystander watched, she noticed that the 911 dispatcher had only dispatched an ambulance, leaving out any police presence to address the escalating situation. Realizing the gravity of what had just unfolded, she made a bold decision. She would send the video she'd recorded of Officer Ramsey assaulting a pregnant woman to local news outlets, determined to ensure that this injustice wouldn't go unnoticed. In the aftermath of the incident, the city was rocked by the revelation of Ramsey's actions. News outlets reported the story, and the community was engulfed in outrage. The image of Eliza, a vulnerable woman attacked by the very person sworn to protect her, ignited a fire within the hearts of the citizens. As news of the incident spread like wildfire, a grassroots movement began to take shape. Social media became a platform for outrage, with hashtags like #Justice for Eliza trending across the city. People shared their own stories of police brutality, igniting a fire of solidarity among those who had long felt marginalized and oppressed. News outlets attempted to contact the officer in charge at the station where Officer Ramsey was assigned, but their efforts were met with an unsettling silence. When Ramsey was finally reached, he simply laughed and dismissively told them to mind their own business, a response that only deepened the sense of concern surrounding his actions. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Community leaders organized meetings in local churches and community centers, their voices rising in passionate calls for reform. They spoke of the need for change, urging citizens to come together in support of Eliza, and to demand justice for all victims of police violence. Flyers were distributed, and rallies were planned, transforming the pain of one woman into a collective call for change. The first protest was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon, and as the sun rose, the city buzzed with anticipation. The air was electric, charged with a sense of purpose as people began to gather at the park. Families, friends, and strangers united under a common cause, holding signs that read, "No justice, no peace, and protect our mothers." Eliza's story became a rallying cry, uniting people from all walks of life. As the march commenced, chants filled the air, echoing through the streets. "Eliza! Eliza!" they cried, their voices rising in unison, a chorus of hope and defiance. The energy was palpable, a mix of anger and determination, as they marched toward the police station, demanding accountability. Amidst the chaos, Eliza remained in the hospital, recovering from her injuries. She watched the news coverage from her hospital bed, tears streaming down her face, as she saw the support pouring in from her community. It was a bittersweet moment. She felt both grateful and heartbroken for the pain her situation had caused. As the protests continued, the police department was forced to launch an internal investigation into Ramsey's actions. The pressure mounted, and the community refused to back down. They demanded transparency, accountability, and justice for Eliza. As investigations into Officer Ramsey's conduct began, his arrogance quickly transformed into a heavy sense of regret. Desperate to make amends, he reached out with apologies, but it was too late. The tide had turned against him. The pressure mounting on the police department was intense, and they were eager to wrap up the matter swiftly, leaving Ramsey to face the consequences of his actions alone. Weeks later, the investigation wrapped up, revealing damning evidence against Officer Ramsey. When the news broke that he was charged with assault and battery, the community erupted in cheers, transforming the streets that once echoed with fear into a chorus of hope and determination. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Ramsey was arrested, dismissed from the force, and taken to jail. While the community reveled in this hard-won victory, they understood that their fight had only just begun. The protests had ignited a powerful movement, one that demanded sweeping reforms in the police force and the justice system. Eliza felt incredibly fortunate to have survived the brutal assault by Officer Ramsey. Thanks to the skilled doctors, both she and her baby delivered a month early were in good health. As she sat at home, cradling her newborn, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here, overwhelmed with gratitude. She cherished every moment, thankful not only for her life and the life of her child, but also for the outpouring of support from those who fought for her justice. Without their unwavering voices, she knew justice might never have been served. The story of Eliza's ordeal became a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit and the unwavering pursuit of justice, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. The movement that began in her name would continue to fight for those who had been silenced, ensuring that no one would ever have to endure what she had suffered again. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to help our channel grow.